Wait, why is he playing Minecraft? Yeah, okay, let's just calm down. Krunker.io doesn't quite look like my normal fare, but it is an FPS game and it has been on my radar now for a short while for a specific reason. To be honest, now I'm a little older, I'm finding that I need to warm up a little before heading into my normal FPS games. If I don't, I'm left flailing with reduced aiming abilities for a while, and believe me, that's not something I'm overflowing with at the best of times. I know there are aim trainer games and such on Steam that I should be using, but frankly I know that after the novelty of them wears off, I just wouldn't stick with them as a daily pre-game game. In steps Krunker.io. It hits the ground running with extremely fast load times, an amazingly short time to actually get into a game. Literally a couple of seconds after loading you could be hopping around a map, but there are options to join the same lobby as friends if you want to party up as well. In many ways, it reminds me of something like Quake or UT back in the day. There's a purity about it that many other games lose these days. This is a game about aiming. There's no abilities or ults or synergies to concern yourself with. I'm also after a game that feels quite disposable, and I don't mean that as a pejorative in this case. I want something that's extremely low stress but high intensity to warm up with. Part of this is the way it's delivered, of course. Keep your voice down, but it's what a lot of people might call a browser game. Yeah, I know, don't freak out. There is a client to download too, but the honest look to the complexity is certainly partly a product of wanting to keep all the assets for the game in a manageable size for web delivery. And just a quick aside to say, if you do enjoy this video, please do tap the thumb up button, as it helps me with YouTube and discoverability and all stuff like that. So if you choose to do so, thank you, it really is appreciated. All the footage you see here is with the freely downloadable client. I'm not really one to play in a browser, though I have heard some people complain about mouse feel in the browser version as well. I'm honestly not that well tuned to notice such nuances, but if you do have opinions in either direction, please do leave a comment below, as I'm really interested to know your thoughts. Because there is a browser option though, it means that you can hop in from pretty much anywhere with a PC. So even a little lunchtime office fragging can happen if you're bored. All you need is your normal login, or if you don't have that, you can just play as a guest. So let's talk about those graphics. They're what you might call basic, or as I prefer to think of them, how games look when competitive players start to mess around with configuration files to get as much performance and visibility out of their game as possible. Can remember the old potato dirty bomb configs that didn't look wholly different to this. There's a little more detail in some of the cosmetic unlocks, but things have a pretty old school feel to them at the best of times. All this means that the game runs pretty well as a result. If you're on a semi-decent system, you're probably going to max out your high refresh monitor with no real issues at all. But there are some settings to drop graphical requirements further if you are trying to run this on a particularly lethargic laptop or something. The Krunker gameplay is mainly aim-focused, with a raised skill ceiling with some movement nuances and things to learn there too. There are basic classes that govern what kind of style you want to play, from ARs with aim down sight to options that are more suited to hipfire, which I rather predictably prefer, and all the way through to shotguns and up to snipers for those people who want some quick scope action. The movement will feel pretty slow initially, but remember your old Quake B-hops and you'll be picking up speed in no time. There is more depth though, things like an increased diagonal movement speed, and then bunny hopping into a slide and then jumping again is generally known as slide hopping, and it's something that you're going to need more experience with to get fully accustomed and execute reliably. I am impressively poor at it. But all this gives a sense of player skill being the main way to scale power in this game, and that kind of feels surprising for something that can also run in a browser. Monetization is partly ad-based and partly via optional in-game currency. There is no pay to win though, it's all cosmetic unlocks. The ads display in the UI screens and not during gameplay, and are present in both the browser and client versions of the game. More troubling to me are the spins, which are basically loot boxes bought with in-game currency. This currency can be earned through gameplay, but there is a direct route to buy currency with real money and then spend that on RNG outcomes. I must stress again that loot box mechanics feel like the monetization of yesteryear and should be removed from all games. I'd much prefer to see real money only be able to be spent on direct sales of cosmetics, and then also have other options like battle passes to supplement and keep players wanting to unlock more. On the whole, the game feels pretty solid given its cross-platform status. seems to be some discussion on Reddit about whether very high FPS actually changes some of the way the physics work in the game, particularly with regards to some of the movement. This isn't something I could really test, but given that similar things used to happen with older 3D engines, I wouldn't be wholly surprised. But I've never had an experience where I felt like I was at a disadvantage in a game and then not really known why. There are some inconsistencies like sounds that don't fully play, they just sort of stop rather than tapering out naturally. It can feel a little bit jarring. But on the flip side, there's also a number of customizations and options that are reminiscent of something that you'd find in a really hardcore FPS game. Things like weapon FOV separate to normal view FOV, bunch of crosshair options, and then even things like movement speed feedback on your HUD and stuff like that. So Krunker.io is not really my main game, but it is a game that I've played on a number of instances, perhaps even more than any other game recently. I'm very interested to know what you think about Krunker, and then indeed this video in general. So leave a comment below right now with your passionate thoughts and feelings. I of course read every single one of them. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to tap the subscribe button to know when the next video is fresh out the oven and cooling on the windowsill of your subscription bar. No, I don't think that made much sense at all. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.